Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from SkiEssentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here to talk about powder skis. This is definitely going to be the widest of our 2026 ski comparisons. Nothing really exists that's wider than a Liberty Genome.
Nope. Not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I know of either. There probably is something.
The next move here is what people always say is strapping 2 snowboards on your feet and making a go of it.
Yeah, which I think somebody should
I
do.
think someone should do that. Not us.
I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it.
No. So yeah, this is a fun grouping of skis. I think we've talked about this stuff before, but Bob and I talked about this internally a lot, like on either ends of the width range, so really, really narrow and really, really wide. I think these can be more challenging comparisons to do. Like all of these skis, if you're picking up one of these and confidently deciding that that's the right ski for the day, you're having a fantastic day.
Something has gone right. Yeah.
Yeah. And in deep snow, depending on the density of the snow, I find that you don't feel as many differences. And I think as snow gets a little denser and depending on your style, there are differences, but you know what I mean? It's just harder to make really strong contrasts.
Yeah, and as always, there's exceptions. A Revolt 114, might be a standout versus your
or a Bason
Bacon
122 feels like a standout.
Yeah.
And then to me, Ben Chetler 120 and QST X, you could almost blindfold me, and I wouldn't be 100% sure which one I was on in really deep snow.
Yeah, and the idea is you don't have to be blindfolded because you're underneath.
Yeah.
So
now I want to go blindfold powder skiing.
That sounds fun. If you knew there was nothing in front of you,
right?
Open bowl.
It's kind of like the one thing that I feel like you could actually do blindfolded.
In my younger and dumber years, I used to do that in Breckenridge. When I knew there was an open thing, I would just go like this and close my eyes.
All right. I wasn't sure how literal we were being, but that's good to know. The other thing I'll mention before we get right into it, filming powder skiing is challenging for many reasons. One is you don't get really deep snow all the time, so you don't have as many opportunities. We can go out and film mid-90 underfoot all mountain skis almost every day.
Yeah.
Where these opportunities don't come up as often, and then even on those days, things happen slower.
Yeah.
And basically the result is we don't have as much footage. I think I would love to have 10 minutes of footage on every one of these skis, because that would be a pretty strong indicator that we had a fantastic season last year.
Totally.
But it's just not the case. So unfortunately, you'll see footage on a handful, but not a lot. We will go most approachable to most demanding.
Kind of. There's 3 subsets of that.
Oh, sure.
I did organize, so from your Bacon 122 over are the most approachable of the twin tips.
Thank you.
From the Atomic to, I don't know, maybe the Crescendo here is most approachable of the more directional skis. And then we kind of flop back to more twin tip and free ride oriented skis that are on the heftier side of the spectrum.
Thank you.
So 3 groupings, but within those are relatively organized that way, yes.
It's still kind of linear.
Yeah, there's a set of directional skis in the middle of all these twin tips.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. You ready? You want to get started, Bob?
Sure.
I think the first ski over here is a great one to start with. This is the Armada ARV 116 JJ Ultralight, or UL. Really cool ski, built with a Karuba wood core. We get some carbon stringers in here, and then we get that smear tech. So it's pretty darn similar to what we see from Atomic with Horizon Tech. In fact, especially with the newest Horizon Tech now, they're quite similar.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I think this is an interesting one and a good one to start with because I do think it is very easy to ski. Saying that about powder skis in general, there's a necessary asterisk because if you're an intermediate skier, skiing powder is hard, period.
Right.
But, within this range, and you'll see this as we go through these skis, there are some attributes that make things easier to ski and then make things down there harder to ski. A lot of it is weight. So this one is very light. You got to remember that like everything up here is really big. Like the amount of surface area and overall materials, there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure.
So 1,750 grams on our scale here. What length do I have here? 185? Yeah, 185. So that is very, very light. The other thing is this ski is quite soft. So it's going to be really, really easy to bend. When you have a softer flexing ski of this width with this shape, which we'll talk more about in a second, the tips are going to stay on top of the snow surface very easily. So it's going to feel intuitive. It's going to actually have like a little bit of forgiveness, so to speak. I think that's a huge thing, is having a ski on your feet that's light and pretty soft. It's reducing the overall fatigue. I also think the shape, which to me is why we have it on that side of the Whitewalker, the shape is pretty intuitive. So I think like anybody that has skied powder in their life could get on this ski and just immediately feel very, very comfortable. There is early taper, but not so much, not like you'd see from a DPS, or it's not a crazy amount of early taper. So you get really consistent float and kind of feedback from this portion of the ski. There's camber underfoot, but it's super, super easy to push through, so it's never fighting you. And then similar tail shape back here. These are twin tips. They are designed for some freestyle use. There is only a 4 millimeter difference in tip to tail width.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. We'll see some much bigger differences, especially in the more directional skis up here. But yeah, I think just everything about this ski is intuitive, easy to ski, very, very predictable. It's not going to surprise you at all. Kind of the downside to this ski is the same things that make it really easy to ski. Is it's not tremendously stable. It's not something that you would want to just point down the fall line and charge. Much, much more of a playful ski, butters, slashes, smeary turns, and then you'll even see that like exaggerated with Whitewalker when we get to that ski. But Whitewalker to me is a lot weirder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I find this one is more approachable.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't be too aggressive on it.
Nope.
And if you're heavier...
Yeah, a little bit of a skier weight thing.
Me and Matt were talking about it the other day up here looking at these skis. Like him and I, if we got on that in deep snow, it would just
bend
it would make like a U shape and wouldn't be incredibly useful.
Yeah, but it would be easy.
Sure would.
You'd have to ski like 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Or like I can get on it and I'd have a blast.
Yep.
I wouldn't have nearly as many limitations on it.
Yeah.
So I think a good one to start with because, easy to ski. And then, we'll see the opposite limitations with something like a Revolt 114.
Sure.
Where a lightweight skier, if you want playful feeling, easy to ski, you are not going to get that in a Revolt 114. So, fun one. 116 underfoot too, which is not crazy. There are some things up here that are just crazy. And when you get crazy wide, they can be hard to ski.
Right.
And we'll talk about, we have the crazy section over there. And it'll be fun to talk about the crazy skis. But as far as powder skis go, these are pretty normal.
Yeah, pretty normal.
Yeah, which is kind of a nice way to start.
Yeah. Next, we got a K2 Reckoner KF. So this is kind of the first of kind of a litany of athlete-inspired or pro model skis, and you will see a lot of kind of names involved with these skis. So this is Carl Fostvett's pro model ski from K2. It was new last year and kind of filled a spot between the Reckoner 112 and the Reckoner 124. So now they have a 110, this 115, and still that 124, which unfortunately we don't have on this wall. It would fit in great, probably right with that Bacon 122. But yeah, this one,
they're like
the same thing.
They're not the same thing, but
yeah,
you could call them the same thing, and I would be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, this is Carl's ski, and developed really to give a little bit more pep and energy due to the carbon involved in the construction. So we're moving to more of a carbon-based build here. Still an aspen wood core, but we get both carbon spectral braiding and carbon boost braid. So we get the crosshatch of the spectral braiding throughout, as well as vertical stringers. You know, it doesn't do a whole lot in the hand flexing department. Again, core thickness is paramount to any other additional materials when you are flexing the ski, but you're certainly getting a good amount of rebound, and when you bend it and you're activating that carbon, you're getting more of a responsive feel.
Yeah, thing's interesting. It's so soft and damp and heavy.
Yeah, but yet a professional and aggressive skier like Carl.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and you see that mix of aggression in a big mountain format with the creativity of being able to.
Yeah.
I don't know how they like go that big off of natural spines and stuff in Canada and Alaska.
A lot of squats,
I mean,
Bob. They do a lot of squats.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. 2,152 grams here in the 184, so decent jump there in weight. And then kind of similar to what we see in the rest of the Reckoner series, you know, a decent amount of camber. You can feel that stiffness here, so it's not like just a noodle underfoot, but then a super long tip rocker shape, and same in the tail. So just basically almost a symmetrical rocker profile and nearly a symmetrical shape. I don't think I'm going to be able to read those numbers specifically, but I think it's like a 3mm drop. They definitely made it for people with glasses or very good vision.
Yeah, 137, 114, 134.
Yeah, so pretty symmetrical in terms of both shape as well as rocker. And whenever you see that type of symmetry, that is kind of leaning more towards the freestyle and more towards the creative. Just being able to swivel and be drifty and playful in a variety of terrain, you know, certainly has that fresh powder and deep snow focus due to the width, but also has kind of those different terrain applications, which, you know, it's not going to be used in the park, but if you're in the backcountry and there's jumps and cliffs and drops and pillows and those spine jumps, which I think are just incredible, that you see in, like, you know, natural selections and Freeride World Tour and stuff like that. Anything that you want to be more freestyle oriented, that's where the symmetry really kind of shows its priorities.
Yeah. If I lived out west, I would own a Reckoner KF in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly fits that style of straight slash,
yeah.
And then just
and the next one does too, but in like different ways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this one, I mean, it's just like, this one's a little more goofy, I think.
It's I would actually say the Whitewalker's goofier, but yeah, it's interesting because like this one, like Carl's big.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
And like a hard skier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he like needs the stability, and like these are not light.
Yeah.
They're like it. If you like look away and pick them up, it feels like there's bindings on them. You know what I mean?
All the Reckoners are like that, though. They're surprisingly dense.
Yeah, well, and especially the KF, and I think you just like, it is interesting because it's that straight sideways mentality and style, but for aggressive skiers.
Yeah.
Like you're adding in an element of speed for sure with this ski. And then moving on to this Whitewalker. This is the Whitewalker 116. This is built the same way as that ski that we started with, the 116 JJ UL. This is basically Sammy Carlson's daily driver. It's kind of his go-to ski. We've got another Whitewalker up here that, Bob, you'll talk about in a few skis. So this one, like on paper, extremely similar to the ski that we started with. This is obviously, yeah, thank you. The same width.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm talking to myself. I'm very tired from this morning still. Skiing's tiring. So it's basically the same thing on paper. Karuba wood core, carbon stringers, 1,750 grams, basically the same exact weight. The thing about this ski is like the pointiness of the tips and tails and just this whole taper section of the shovel of the ski. It's basically designed to go sideways as easily as possible. Like Sammy Carlson is known for his quickness and like, you know, he's like a little ninja, and he's like kind of the opposite of someone like Carl Fosfed, where he's not big and he's not like, I don't think of Sammy Carlson as a particularly powerful skier. It's his quickness and his nimbleness that makes him such a special skier. And if you're familiar with how he skis, he's slashing quick turns like all over the place. So this ski does that really, really well. But if you kind of don't have that skiing style, this will feel pretty weird. Like it does have like, I think it's like an 18-meter turn radius or something like that. It's kind of a shorter turn radius, but there's not really much about it that's very round. It's like exceptionally straight sideways.
Yeah.
And it does that super, super well. The other benefit of tips like this, and the reason why it becomes so straight sideways and surfy and slashy, is you're never going to get like any catchiness out of the tip. And that means that like a nose butter 360 on this ski is basically easier than like anything else on the entire wall. And it's not stiff either, you know, so that's kind of adding into it as well. You're not fighting anything if you're kind of trying to make those more freestyle inspired, slashy, smeary, buttery maneuvers. So very interesting ski. And, you know, obviously we're still squarely in the twin tip world here. Pretty symmetrical tip to tail rocker, land switch, takeoff switch, all those good things.
Yeah, and it's I always think that the pointy or anytime you're getting more dramatic with your shaping, you're accentuating one section of attributes. And like you were saying, being able to throw that thing sideways, especially for skiers who don't do that naturally well, is really fun.
Yeah.
Being able to feel the actual ski helping you in a certain situation. And that's kind of the point of a lot of these skis, is that they're helpful for powder and deep snow. Yeah.
So very, very similar to that ski that we started with. They have same exact side cut dimensions too. So it's just weirder.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens with, you know, athlete-inspired skis, is you just get kind of more idiosyncratic attributes.
Yeah.
This is the line Bacon 115 and Bacon 108 and 115 basically follow the same construction and style. This is just the same snow feel kind of. This is a little bit wider. It is built with a blend of aspen and maple. So we've always talked about maple as having an interesting type of effect on a ski. The line Blend for a long time was built with maple, and we talked about like picturing a maple sapling, like it bends, but it doesn't break. It's very, very flexible. And that's kind of what you're getting here, yet maple is also on the heavier side.
Yeah, I think
so
pretty dense.
It's kind of a dense ski, but it's very, very flexible. So it's easy to bend, but then has that, it won't do a good thud because of its twin tip shape and style, but it does feel substantial in your hands. And 2,300 grams here on the scale in the 188. So definitely some heft here, but not hard to bend. You know, and we've kind of talked about that with the Blend as well, where, yeah, it's dense feeling, but man, is it soft. So that's what you're getting is this dense feel, this softer flex, a little bit more supportive, I would say, than the Reckoner KF, just due to the density of the wood and the heavier feel.
Well, and is it as soft as this?
Almost. It's a different flex.
Yeah, not quite, right?
Yeah. But yeah, the Bacon 115 really benefits from a lot of the things that Line does. They use their thin tips, so they really narrow this sidewall or tip area and tail area, slightly lowering that swing weight. I mean, it's still, it still feels more substantial underfoot. We've talked about that with Chronics, similar type of technology. And then, as everything in here so far, pretty ample rocker, both tip and tail, and just slightly more, symmetrical than others. 148, 115, 143. So 5 millimeter drop in tip to tail width there. And, Bacon, and I think inspired a lot by this really kind of awesome group of athletes.
Yeah.
They just keep getting progressively wider and more creative with their twin tips from Chronic 94 basically through that Bacon 122. Anything that you can imagine from a freestyle and freeride perspective, that's what these skis are built to do. Pretty fun, pretty interesting skis. I think I had a lot of fun on the 108 specifically. The 115 certainly requires a different level of snowfall to make it really access the entirety of the performance, but they're really maneuverable and really fun to use, even if you're not like a freestyle-oriented skier.
Yeah, and I think that's like fun to call out when there's crossover from like freestyle influence or free ski influence to like general purpose or like more broad appeal. Like, Ben Chetler 120 feels like the perfect example of that, where like it's designed for Chris Ben Chetler and it's designed to be able to do crazy freestyle things in the backcountry, but then it's like one of the most popular powder skis for your more average skier. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like your more average skier likes to feel something interesting or unique about a ski.
Yeah.
And, not to move too far ahead, but you get like that nice bounce and that nice energy here. Whereas, the Bacon, you're getting that smoother, more, it's hard to say that this has a traditional feel, but it does have kind of that nice woody sense to it. It's not, it's supportive and predictable.
It has similar characteristics to Reckoner KF in some ways. That like shape is playful, flex is relatively soft, but then you've got like a pretty darn supportive feel. And I feel like, this is a good one if you like skiing fast.
Yep.
Like Bacon 115 is a great option if you've kind of got that freestyle influence in your skiing, but you also really like to ski fast and or you're kind of a bigger skier, where like I feel like 122 is a little bit of the opposite, like works great for lightweight skiers that want like a flickable ski kind of.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Moving right along here, Bob, we've got the Atomic Ben Chetler 120, the ski that started it all in the bent line. Obviously, you see these skis all over the place, maybe not the 120, but bent skis or bent Chetler skis in general. And yeah, it kind of all started with this one. This one also, this with the 100, they received the most recent updates in the bent collection. Poplar wood core in this ski now, and kind of the big thing is that wood like extends further into the shovel. Get a little bit more consistency through the extremities of the ski, and just, I would say, a little bit more consistency throughout in the way that it feels and performs. We do get the updated Horizon Tech in this ski. One thing that is a little different with this compared to that Smear Tech is the Smear Tech goes all the way around. So it's like, you can kind of see it. Like this one, it's just on the sides, which I don't really think it changes that much because really this part of your ski isn't touching the snow very often. I think they achieve very, very similar things. So this one's really, really long. What do I have for length here? 190?
94, I think.
192.
192, I'm sorry.
So really long, 2,100 grams on our scale here. You know, it's over 2,000 grams, so it's heavier than a couple of the skis that we've looked at so far. I certainly have never felt like they feel heavy when you ski them. They feel pretty darn lightweight. I think a lot of that is the Horizon tech and just how thin these shovels and tails get. So the swing weight's maybe lighter than the stated weight on paper. But such a fun ski. I mean, it's, like I was just saying, it's designed to perform and do those freestyle things in the backcountry, nose butters, tail butters, cork sevens off wind lips, like Bob was talking about, those transferring spines and gaps and stuff like that. So you see a twin tip shape here, good amount of tip rocker up here, not a tremendous amount of early taper. Again, I think like it's a predictable amount like the ARV that we started with. And then similar in the tail back here, so almost the same. I think there's 5% less tail rocker than tip rocker in the bent Chetler 120. A little bit more taper in the tail, which makes sense because you're not always skiing backwards in powder. In fact, if you are, chances are you're getting back to forward pretty quickly. So having a narrower and more tapered tail basically lets the ski kind of sink into the snow behind you, which then puts your tips up a little bit. And yeah, I mean, it's incredibly well-rounded. I do think it's fun to point out the extremely well-rounded powder skis up here, and this is kind of the start of it. For me, I would include the QST X as well. And you know, I would probably include the Unleashed 120 down there, but really for me, the Ben Chetler 120 and the QST X, like, it's hard to say this about anything in this category, but we like to use this in other width ranges a lot. If you're not sure what to buy, you can get a Ben Chetler 120 or a QST X, and you're gonna have a really good time.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of uniqueness about some of the other skis up here, and like probably not everyone should be considering a Crescendo or a Genome, like,
or even a Cicada.
like should anybody? Or,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
A Pescado.
a Pescado, like, you know, you could, like, should anybody? And like, yes, some people should, but you know what I mean? Like, they're specialty things where this is still a specialty thing in the sense that even if you live somewhere that gets hammered with snow, it's not like every day is a Ben Chetler 120 day, but still, you're going to choose it more often, and it is going to be a little bit more predictable, more well-rounded, and with a pretty broad appeal.
Yeah.
So this is one that if you're shopping for powder skis and you're not sure, or you're not sure which elements are going to work for you, I can pretty confidently recommend a Ben Chetler 120.
Yeah. Not too many disappointed people on one.
I don't think I've ever met a single one.
Yeah.
No. And that really is telling.
Yeah.
And I feel similar on QSTX, although the X is interesting because then you've got like are you a blank skier or an X skier, and that doesn't really happen with Ben Chetlers because it's like, well, the 110 and the 120 are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like, just with which width do you want?
Right.
This one, you know, like on paper it might seem like it falls into that category, but it's kind of weird.
I think this is one of the more unique skis. This is the Whitewalker 121. So if the 116 is Sammy's everyday ski,
daily driver, all mountain ski.
This is his powder ski, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
If you can have a 116 and a 121 in your catalog as under your names, but you know, basically we're dealing with the same footprint. So we see the weirdness in the pointy tip and in the tail here. We increase in width from 116 to 121. Similar style of weight. We're still dealing with a Karuba wood core here, so 1,782 grams. Where we start to get more interesting and unique is in the swivel tech. So you get smear tech in your 116s over there, and then when we move up to the 121, we get swivel tech. And still, we don't have any fully rockered skis here. There is still some camber, I believe, in all of these skis. But we certainly have a long rocker profile here, and it's not going to show up very well on camera, but the edges stop about, I don't know, a quarter of the way down the ski. You know, Armada had that B-Dog edgeless ski. I don't know if they still do or how many years that lasted, but you know, basically they made a ski without edges for rails.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
for concrete ledges more.
because those are way more fun to ski.
Metal slides on metal. Metal doesn't slide well on concrete.
Yeah.
So like that's sort of where that's coming from.
But yeah, basically like a 3/4 or even 2/3 metal edge in this ski. So super interesting.
I know, it looks like a cross-country ski.
It does, like a backcountry,
Yeah.
like a BC.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the smear tech changes to swivel tech by the length of it. And then the edges just really encapsulate the middle portion where the camber is. And then same in the tail. You know, it's just, the edges start there. So this much of the ski in the back does not have an edge. And, you know, if you think about it, like, you don't need edge grip in powder, so why have edges? That's kind of the theory here, is that you're getting the ultimate driftiness. You're really not encountering any resistance at all when it comes to ski to snow contact. The edges are all about building that resistance, you know, and fighting against the snow, whereas if you go edgeless, you're just giving into it. You're becoming closer to the snow.
Yeah.
Whereas metal puts you farther away. So super interesting. Obviously you know, that pro model ski to the nth degree, where I think that it would be a lot of fun to ski on these in really deep snow. You know, it might not be everybody's ideal choice for that. You know, that's why pro model skis are, and on a wall of skis that aren't intended for everybody, a pro model version is even more specific.
Yeah.
So
It's a weird ski.
yeah,
It'd be really, really fun. Like, again, if I lived somewhere that got a ton of snow, I would love to own one, because there's really nothing else quite like it.
yeah, yeah. Super interesting, very strange. Obviously one of the more unique constructions and shapes out there.
Yeah. And if you can't do a nose butter 360 in deep snow on that ski,
Give up.
just, you can't you can't do it. It's not for you.
Yeah,
No, and like I joke a little bit, but like that's what that ski is built for.
yeah, for sure.
Like, to an extreme. And then this one's fun too. This is the line Bacon 122. You know, if that Whitewalker 121 is built for nose butters, this to me is built for backcountry jumps. You know, if you want to hit a backcountry jump and do a switch double cork 900 or something like that, and you're going to go pretty big and land in deep snow, this is great. You see lines, athletes choosing this ski a lot, like Tom Wallish. I think this is his choice as his backcountry jump ski. A little different than the 115. This is built with aspen and paulownia, so it's a little bit lighter, 2,100 grams on the scale here. And it's a pretty soft flexing ski, but it's not just a complete noodle. You know, you're not just flexing right through it. I think it's got a nice consistent flex pattern to it. And that's kind of what you need for those landings that I was just talking about. And if you're kind of, you know, if you want a ski that's 122 underfoot that feels the most like a park ski as possible, this is kind of it to me.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have much early taper, so kind of like the opposite of a Whitewalker 121, just big fat tips and tails, which, you know, that comes along with a little bit more demand, and it's like taking away some of the ease of use from just a pure powder skiing perspective. Like, it's not just knifing through the snow. You're getting a tremendous amount of float. And, you know, sometimes when you have so much float in a ski like this, things like speed control become harder and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just not as easy or as intuitive to ski in deep snow. But to me, that's like sort of secondary in the purpose of this ski, and the primary purpose is hitting jumps in the backcountry. And when you look at it through that lens, everything about it makes so much sense. Like, these shovels are just going to allow you to land in deep snow, even if you're not perfectly balanced or like perfectly dialed in your landing. And that's kind of the, you know, the famous thing about like taking your tricks to the backcountry is there's like zero margin for error. Like, when you're hitting a park jump and you're landing on a groomed landing, you can be off a little bit and it's fine.
You can
like,
spin out a little
yeah,
bit.
you wash out a little bit, but then like still can make it look good. Where like landing in powder, you have to land so perfectly. And it's not like this completely changes that, but it's at least adding like, I don't know, forgiveness is not the right word, but it's allowing for minor mistakes here and there, and you're still going to be able to put your feet down and ski away.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to your point, you see a lot more like tomahawking after landing awkwardly in the backcountry than you do in the park.
Yeah, even just like a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I remember my first time like trying to hit a backcountry jump, and like I thought I was pretty good. You know, I could go to the park and like do all sorts of cool things, and then like trying to do those tricks in soft snow, I was like, oh,
this is hard.
not quite as good as I thought I was, and it's humbling. And you know, it's when you commit so much time and energy to trying to accomplish those things, it's really nice to have kind of the right tool for the job, or something that's going to be a little bit more helpful. I also like the way that there's a little quote back here that says raw freestyle powder performance. Like, they're not shying away from its intention.
They've always been great about describing their skis,
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
They do a good job with that.
Yeah. And very different from this next ski.
Yeah, this is kind of a move towards directional normalcy.
Yeah.
With this Atomic Maverick 115 CTI. So this was new last year. So this is now in year 2 of its production.
Yeah, matches that Remedy 130 if you want to just be
This color?
butter yellow.
This and the 105 CTI came about as the new Maverick series, and now the 88 and the 96 have caught on to that same construction and overall style. So not quite as much metal as we saw in the past with the Maverick series of skis. We do get a poplar wood core with ash, and then a mix of Titanal and carbon in this ski. It is more directional. Certainly looks like it looks the same as the other Maverick skis, just wider. Not terribly heavy, 1,993 grams here. This has got to be what, the 185? Yeah, so, you know, at or around 2,000 grams, and, you know, no surprises here really from a shaping perspective. Not as much of a dramatic profile as we see in the Bent 120, Bent Chetler 120. Similar horizon tech though, you know, it does have that longer wood going up through the middle of it, but kind of an equal amount of length to it. They don't have it in the tail. So that's where we're seeing a big difference here, not just construction from the Bent Chetler 120, but also in that shape and profile. Certainly a much more directional and traditional tail. There is some tail taper here, so it does, you know, kind of allow you to steer a little bit better and get a little bit loose if you want, but certainly more of that directional performance, longer camber underfoot as well. But yeah, you know, and this, I mean, this was, help me out here, Darren Rolves.
Correct.
Was there a Sage involvement in this?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But yeah, another ski that was really athlete inspired to be kind of that more harder charging directional ski for more big mountains. If you think of Darren Ralphs having a racing background,
Yeah.
this makes more sense as a former racer powder ski.
100%.
So
Yeah.
if you're a racer and you were going to design a powder ski, you'd come up with something like this way before you came up with something like a Bacon 122 or a Bent Chetler 120.
Or anything behind me,
Yeah,
which is fitting that these are behind me.
right. So what you're getting here, less freestyle, less creativity, but more kind of directional charging performance. Whether you're in fresh snow or even more crud or chop, wind blown, more adverse conditions in terrain. That's where something like this with this straighter and flatter tail is going to help out, because it's going to be able to cut through and be a little bit smoother in kind of variety. So yeah, if you're looking for variety, higher speeds, a little bit more stability, don't really care about freestyle performance or anything like that, the move to a Maverick 115 CTI makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the flatter tail is just something to think about.
Yeah.
Like, I do think that's, I think you could shift some things around here depending on demand based on the tail.
Yeah.
Because it's like stylistic, and it's sort of dependent on snow conditions and depth, but that's going to be harder to get the tail to kind of like smear or swish around behind you. I do think for the right person in the right situation, it's actually not hard to ski. It's more like if you need to throw the skis sideways frequently, that's where I think the Maverick 115 can be challenging.
Yep.
But if it's, if you're in like deep snow, that's going to slow you down, so you don't have to be using the ski to slow down. The snow is slowing you down. And or you're on sort of moderately pitched terrain, and you can just kind of let the skis go, and you're not worried about going too fast. And or you're Darren Ralphs. It's pretty easy to ski.
Yeah.
And I'm joking a little bit, but that's kind of how I think about it. Like, someone with a race background, any of the considerations or limitations are thrown out the window. That doesn't matter at all. And then beyond that, it is kind of like snow condition dependent, terrain dependent, your skiing style, what you're looking to do on a powder day. Like, if you're sticking to moderate terrain, that's not demanding at all. If you're going to find the tightest chute that's really, really steep, just be aware that you might have to work a little harder to release that tail.
Yeah, and to fight against that camber a little bit, because it is more cambered and a little stiffer. Right.
So it's there are elements to it that are designed like that for a reason.
Yeah.
It's just important to know those things.
Totally.
I think the next one is pretty universal and pretty easy to ski. I would almost feel good about putting this in the category of, if you don't know what to buy, just get a Blaze 114.
It's totally unoffensive.
It's pretty unoffensive. It doesn't I do think there's more of a subjective preference for this ski than some of the others.
Yeah.
I really like skiing it. I don't know that I would be quick to own it, where I feel like it kind of aligns more with how you ski for some reason.
I mean, I'm a Blaze 94 to 114 fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all kind of fit my style.
Yeah.
That 104, 114.
This one, I do think it's a little bit of an outlier, in the Blaze range.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You do get more surfiness out of it compared to the narrower Blazes, and that's something that I really like about it, but it is still kind of unique. It's very light, so Volkl uses their green core in this ski, so it's that super lightweight, multi-layer core. In the green core, we get that synthetic material, which is actually green. We have a core example in your office.
Yeah.
We could have brought to show. But yeah, it's pretty cool when you see it in person because it's like actually recycled, like water bottles, I think.
Yeah, plastic bottles.
And it works really well. And then in these Blaze skis, not all of them, but certainly in this 114, we get suspension tips and tails, so some rubber in the tips and tails, and then we get that Titanal reinforcement layer underfoot. Works great as binding retention. Also provides a little extra stability and support. You know, if they wanted only binding retention, they could just do strips right there. But the fact that they extend it to the edges of the ski, it connects underfoot, it kind of extends into the fore and aft sections of the ski. It is, by intention, they're adding some power underfoot there. But yeah, very lightweight, still 1,930 grams. This is the 184. And then 3D radius in this ski, and that's where I think some of the uniqueness comes from among the Blaze skis. So the underfoot radius is 18, but in the shovel it's 39, and in the tail it's 29. So really, really straight through here, and same thing in kind of the back end of the ski there. And that makes it very drifty. And it is like, it's kind of a technical thing, and I think that's why you really like it, Bob, because I think you're a pretty technical skier, where depending on how you're weighting it, you can get it to make different turn shapes. So like if you're really like gas pedaling or like pushing into it right here and kind of thinking about turning with the ski right under your foot, you can get it to make a pretty round turn. But for me, like when I get on it, I just kind of like surf around. But then like, you know, like the interesting part for me is if I'm on a powder ski and it has a very surfy, smeary mentality, then I personally would prefer a twin tip because then it opens up more possibilities. Like, you know, I don't think about like nose butters or like things like that when I think of a Blaze 114. So it's kind of like, and it's just one of those subjective things of like whether that's going to be great for you or not. I've never felt like this thing has a lack of float, even though it is kind of one of the narrower skis up here. It floats very, very well. I think the weight has a lot to do with that, and the shape too. So, as is true with a lot of Volkls, Bob, it's very flat.
Is this our flattest ski up here?
Gotta be, right?
I think so.
So not much camber underfoot, and then like extremely long tip rocker. Some of the longest tip rocker. The next ski is going to be interesting to look at the length of tip rocker. But yeah, extremely long tip rocker, but very, very low. And then same is true in the tail. And interestingly, you know, like they don't need early taper because the ski is so straight here.
Yeah.
So that's how they achieve like not a catchy feel. And yeah, I think a great ski for, like I said, a very, very technical skier. I think like the fact that there's a skin attachment point on the tail is a nod to that style of skiing.
Yeah.
You know, you're going and touring and finding unique terrain and kind of more of a supportive adventure ski, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean like directional, drifty, and energetic.
Yeah.
You know, those don't always go together.
No, in fact, they don't go together very often at all.
Yeah, and that's what they're all about.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, moving on to this Salomon QST X, really fun ski. Unchanged from last year when it was new.
It's such a good ski, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, because it has that QST feel, but it does very different things from all of the other QSTs.
Well, and like when they came out with it, like, you know, it's not like they like marketed this way necessarily, but it was adjacent to the QST Echo. Yeah. So I was like, I wasn't sure that it was like a ski that was meant for me at all.
Right.
And so I kind of had like a wrong first impression of it. And then having skied it a lot now, I'm like, this thing is just, it's such a well-rounded powder ski.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just a testament to making sure you get the right ski in the right conditions, you know. And if you do, then this thing certainly aligns with those.
Yeah.
But yeah, unchanged from last year. So still built with a blend of poplar and caruba, so lighter build, basically that Echo construction.
Yep.
Lighter weight, and they do get carbon and flax fibers in here. Recycled sidewalls, which look pretty sweet, and then I think some of the better bases in the game as well. But yeah, full sidewall throughout. You do get kind of that sturdier, that typical QST solid feel to it. Not terribly heavy, 2,080 grams here in the 192. And as you pointed to earlier, the kind of the bigger story is this length and length of rocker, which
it's really
show you that too. It's super.
It's quite profound.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you put it next to like all the other QSTs,
Yeah.
it still feels very different.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, it's really meant to be in deeper snow. You know, anytime you get this much rocker and you happen to not be in deep snow, you really feel that coming, doing that thing. And same with the tail. Again, it's not like a bend. We've always kind of referred to it as a kink, you know, where the edges finally meet up and then it just goes boink, like right out and then straight up. And that really gives it that surfy mentality, which is just incredibly fun and rewarding in deeper snow.
Yeah.
And they do so well in that environment, mostly due to that shape, but they're just have a really nice progressive flex to them as well. Lot of energy, so you can really load up the ski in deeper snow and get pop out of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about something like,
They have some of the bouncy mentality of bents.
and kind of the opposite of a bacon, where it's just going to squish into the snow. This is either going to ride on top and float and smear, or bounce back and forth. So yeah, super fun. You know, really nice long taper shape here. Just cuts through deep snow super easily. I find it to be really good in trees as well. So if you're looking for a deep snow tree ski, this is a really good one because it is pretty mobile and agile and you get that energy. It's not like you're just pushing against it and you don't get anything back. You do get a lot out of this ski.
26-meter turn radius, which that's so long that it becomes quick.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like similar to Blaze.
Yeah.
Like it's never catchy, so the ability to pivot it and put it where you need to put it is just off the charts. Like you wouldn't think it has a place here in Stowe, but I've skied it in Stowe several times and it's a blast.
Totally. Yeah, and again, really fun in the trees because you are able to wiggle it.
Yeah.
It's got a high wiggle factor for the amount of energy it gets.
Yeah. Okay, moving on here. Next one we've got is this DPS Lotus 117. Pretty interesting ski here, Bob. 2 sheets of carbon in this surrounding a poplar wood core. Definitely, well, is it the most expensive ski up here? It's gotta be.
It's gotta be.
Somebody asked in the last video why we didn't include prices, and we talked about it, and there's just not that much of, there's not as big of a range.
Yeah.
So we didn't feel like it was necessary, but this one, you know, this is a little bit of an outlier.
It's worth a mention, yeah.
Yeah. So Lotus 117 here. You know, I think this is another one that falls into the kind of, if you don't know what to buy, get a Lotus 117. The reason I didn't include it in that is the price.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of hard to recommend a really expensive ski just that easily. But there are a lot of things about it that are just great as a powder ski. It's pretty lightweight, so 1,950 grams on our scale here. What length do I have? Yeah, 191, so pretty big ski to achieve a weight like that. Something that I think is interesting about them is they're pretty stiff. So, you know, as we've seen with other kind of carbon-based skis, they can be light and stiff.
Yeah.
In a powder ski, having a stiffer ski sometimes can be great, you know, kind of how you were just talking about, like a bacon will just squish and things like this are going to be a little bit more reactive. It's also It's a longer turn radius than we see from a lot of DPS skis, so a 21 meter turn radius in this ski. So a little bit more predictable, a little bit more intuitive, less twitchy and less surprising than some of the other DPS skis can be.
Yeah, if you go from like a Kaizen 112 to a Lotus 117, you're going to notice a big difference in that amount of reactivity.
Yeah. So, you know, to me, more of a true powder ski. There are still some things that make it pretty unique. Price is one, but I think the tip shape is pretty important to look at. So a good amount of tip rocker by length and splay, but a lot of taper.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of polarizing. Like I'm one to admit that I've never really found that this works great for me. I just don't know what to do with this portion of the ski. Plenty of other people absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So it's like...
I think that's the whole point, is that you're not supposed to do anything with that part of the ski.
Yeah, but I like want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I guess I've spent a lot of time on like skis with big fat tips. Yeah. And I'm kind of used to using them to my advantage, even though it's like they come along with a more demanding feel sometimes. I just, for me, it's like, I just kind of wish it was a little bit straighter. But the fact that it doesn't work great for me is totally fine. And it's kind of like the same reason why it works really well for a lot of other skiers.
Yeah.
So again, like a very, very technical ski, if DPS is based in Utah, and I can think of a million places, and a million, not literally, but I can think of so many situations in Utah where this ski would be just an absolute dream. Like narrow chutes, technical terrain, you got to make subsequent turns, you have to make them quickly, and you don't want it to be overly fatiguing. This ski is just absolutely fantastic. And some skiers will be able to get on it and ski it pretty darn fast and be fine. That's where I get nervous, because it's like I'm just not, I can't convince myself to trust the shape.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I hear you.
And then there's not like a tremendous amount of tail rocker in this ski. They achieve maneuverability in this ski through that taper. So in the tail, like I think it's less polarizing to have a tail shape like this, because it's going to allow it to sink and not catch very, very much. Where if you put, anything with a wider kind of spoonier tail, it is going to catch the snow more often. So it's really good. I think there's just a tremendous amount of people out there that would absolutely love it. I think more people would love it than dislike it. But yeah, it's like, I think it's fair to say that it's pretty unique and not for everybody. Like if you fall anywhere in this range behind me, you probably aren't a Lotus 117 skier. Yeah. But if you look at things over here and you think they look stupid, then you're probably definitely a Lotus 117 skier. Is that fair?
I think so. Yeah, and like you feel carbon less and less as it gets deeper, I think. And
yeah.
But what those skiers want is that support.
Yeah.
I think that if you're not willing to put the creativity or the effort into making those skis bend, that you want the ski to do a little bit more of the work, then the carbon starts to come to life. And it's interesting how this carbon is so different than that in the KF.
Just wildly different. I mean, plenty of, like this uses carbon, this uses carbon, this uses carbon. They feel completely different.
Yeah. They also make a 124, which we do not have, unfortunately, but similar style, shape, application, just bigger.
Yeah. I like that one more.
If you're going to be going this route, you just want the widest one possible.
Yep.
I hear you.
Yeah. Because then it takes away some of the again, not that that's twitchy, but it's twitchier.
Yeah.
So like going really wide, then it's like, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Next one here, Fischer Ranger 116. Let me see if I can sneak this out.
Careful.
Fat skis really take up a different amount of real estate.
This is the last one before we get pretty weird.
Yeah,
three
this
skis.
is probably the last somewhat normal ski. This is a Ranger 116. Same as last year, built with beech and poplar in the wood core. We do get their shaped Titano laminate underfoot. You know, similar to that discussion with your Blaze there, Jeff, it's really not a whole lot of metal. As the Rangers get wider, the metal gets shorter. So there's not a lot. It's really just kind of a glorified underfoot plate for the most part. It does make this ski feel very, very flexible, though. Ooh, that was a good one. So yeah, you can certainly bend this thing to your whims.
It's surprisingly flexible.
Surprisingly flexible, especially if you're still in old Ranger mindset.
Yeah.
You would not come into this 116 thinking that it was as supportive,
Yeah.
but it is certainly more playful for a more directional ski.
It's also like not a linear progression at all from like 102 to 108 to 116 in the Ranger line.
No, they...
Like you go from 108 to 116, it's like this is a completely different thing.
Yep. And this is actually, every time I've been on this has been my favorite Ranger.
It's up there for me too.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. It's engaging. It's rewarding. I feel like this thing finally matches what they're stating for turn radius and intent. 20-meter turn radius, and that's what it feels like. I mean, it feels like it turns, but it also is capable of breaking free of that turn pretty easily. 2,123 grams. So there's some weight, but it doesn't feel terribly heavy. Nice long rocker profile, kind of rivals that QST X a little bit.
Yeah, it's not as abrupt
Not
though.
as abrupt.
It's such a unique thing. Like,
Yeah.
It's like hinge point in this ski.
Yeah.
Like they just go dunk, dunk. Like there's nothing progressive about it at all.
Yeah, and then the tail, very different. You know,
Yeah.
just talking to those two specifically, this has a lot more of a DPS tail rocker profile than a QST X. So a little bit more directional. You can actually get some nice rebound out of the ski. And then a very spoony tip shape. I mean, this is probably the most consistent thing throughout the Ranger line. I just find that it works better in the wider skis. You know, just kind of this longer, wider part, especially in this 116.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of the Lotus.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what I mean. Like maybe it's just visual for me. I should stop looking at the tips of my skis.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really meant to be engaged in the snow, like you were saying. Like it's mental, like I want to do something with the front of the ski.
Yeah.
I want to be able to see it and engage it. But in reality, this part of the ski is not really doing a whole lot. But yeah, just a little bit thinner of a core profile overall. That's what's giving you that softer, more playful flex. So I do think that there's some creative component here for this directional ski, but you know, for the most part, it still fits better in with that Lotus and QST X and Blaze in terms of, I would say, audience. You know, maybe the skier is a little bit more progressive and youthful and exuberant than someone who's a Blaze 114 skier who's a little bit more measured in their turns. I think you can get looser on this than you can on some
I
of the
still
other
think
ones
pretty
here.
broad appeal there.
Yeah.
Works great for somebody who likes to ski pretty fast too,
Yeah.
because it has that damp feel.
Yeah.
Less technical.
Yeah, and not, you know, we had mentioned that these are different, that there's a nonlinear progression, but there's also minimal surprises. Like if you're
Yeah, 100%.
a Ranger 96 skier and you want a powder ski, this is not going to be a leap and a bound beyond.
Like they make the same sounds and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that that's worth noting, especially within a line like that goes from basically 90 to 116.
Yeah, I guess for me, like I mostly think about the 108 and the 116.
Yeah.
Like the 116 feels quicker.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Which I've always thought was
Yeah.
interesting. And it's not just a me thing, because it seems like everybody that's gotten on them feels that same way.
Yeah, no, I do too.
This one's really, really interesting. This is the line Pescado. Do you feel like the Pescado is past its heyday? I feel like there was a golden age for Pescado. And I don't feel like it gets as much... People don't get as excited about Pescado anymore.
No, but I do think that it has its devotees that are Pescado or nothing in the powder. And I also feel like those people are also like, this is a great all-mountain ski too.
Yeah.
You know, they love it. It aligns
Yeah.
with what they do. It is, albeit perhaps a small portion of the population. So
Yeah.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. But it still does things that nothing else does.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Paulownia wood core, pretty light construction. There's no like crazy additives in here or anything. It's just 1,800 grams on our scale. This is a 180, and kind of the intention of this ski is to achieve float in a shorter ski.
Yeah.
So it's all shape based. The Pescado is 100% like shape is the key for the Pescado.
Yeah.
Crescendo too.
Yeah, this is just more interesting.
Crescendo is pretty interesting
Yeah.
too. But yeah, back to Pescado here. It's very interesting. There is just this massive shovel. Like there's so much surface area and so much float in this shovel. It's never going to dive. Like that's always going to stay on top
Yeah.
of the snow surface. And it's supported by the fact that it's a pretty big swallowtail. So it's, you know, it's like a fish snowboard.
Right.
Like those have swallowtails or split tails or whatever you want to call it, tend to be shorter, tend to have really big shovels as well, or tips. And basically, yeah, the idea here is that the back of the ski is allowed and encouraged to sink.
There's a rearward mount point too.
Totally.
That is
Yeah.
putting your weight in the back of the ski.
Yeah, so you mount it way back here. There's not that much ski behind you.
Yeah.
And you have this swallowtail. So basically, like in powder, it just does that. And, you know, it might seem weird, but that just makes it incredibly easy to control. Like so pivoty, but endless float.
Yeah, and that swallowtail, you're able to, so when you put your energy on one edge or the other, these fins
Yeah.
either activate or release
Yeah.
way easier. So you're able to get this
Right.
so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also allows for speed control. So that's another thing that like fish snowboards do really well. And you see a lot of people here in Stowe on a fish style board, just like wiggling through the trees and using that to slow themselves down.
Yeah.
So you can do the same thing with this, is like let the tail sink and you just feel yourself slow down without having to put the ski sideways. So it basically means that like you can keep this thing pointed down the fall line and just do little wiggles like that. And you're not going to get going too fast, where like if you do that on a Genome, 3 turns in, you're going to be going 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Where 3 turns in on the Pescado, you're going to be going like 3 miles an hour. Yeah. So it's a very interesting ski. And yeah, every once in a while you get people that really, really like to talk it up on firmer snow or groomers. Yeah. For me, it ends at the Sakana.
Right.
I love skiing the Sakana on a groomer. The Pescado to me just gets a little weird, but you know, it is like there's a supportive flex pattern here, and like some
Are you bending it?
some torsional. I'm trying to twist it. There's some torsional rigidity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get it to do other things, but to me, it's a pretty specialty tool for really deep snow, for somebody who wants just like unbelievably fun turns.
Yeah, and if you're in that deep snow, you don't want to be able to find the bottom. You know, you can get to something like an Unleashed or a Revolt 114 or Center Free 118 where if you find the bottom or the hard stuff underneath, it's going to be fine. But this is not.
Yeah, good point.
Next in our series of weirder and wilder skis is this K2 Crescendo, which up until we had the Genome in the house was our widest ski for sure. We're at 155, 132, 144, a mix of aspen and paulownia in the wood core. We also get their carbon application here as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like on their website, they don't call it carbon spectral braid, but it is, and the ski says carbon spectral braid.
It sure looks like it.
Yeah, it's because it's tighter weave up in the shovel.
Yeah, it's like Mindbender.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Mindbender 106 or
Yeah.
90C or 96C carbon, or basically the same exact thing.
Yeah. But yeah, 132 underfoot. This thing is really built for deep snow. I think that we're getting out, I don't know, I don't want to say getting out of resort application, but we're moving into more heli skiing, cat skiing, like backcountry snowmobile access. Like you really don't want to deal with anything other than deep, fresh snow with a Crescendo.
Yeah, I agree.
Cap construction. I love how this thing is just a fully cap ski. You know, they don't really seem to feel that there's a need for torsional stiffness or proper edge grip. They really just want this thing to go through its paces, and I mean, it's pretty supportive. It's not the softest ski on this wall by a long shot. Yeah, and lots of rocker, you know, just no surprise there. If you're gonna have a 132 underfoot ski, you're probably gonna have a whole lot of rocker in the tip. And then tail taper, I think, is one of the big stories here. You know, it's kind of interesting going right off the back of that Pescado, which wider, but then has this, whereas they
just taper it.
The Crescendo is just heavily tapered.
Yeah.
So you can still do the same thing, you know, little more rearward mount point. You're getting that same tips up type of characteristic. This just steers a little bit differently, more like a rudder than having those two independent wings there. More of a stylistic choice there for sure. Lots of tail rocker as well, but still a little tiny bit of camber underfoot. So still in that cambered area, 22 meter turn radius, pretty easy to drift and smear and stay on top. You know, your limitation here is that width, and we will certainly talk about that with the Genome as well, where if you are not used to being on a ski that wide, it is just more and more difficult to get it up on edge or where it needs to go. Similar conversation we have to the super narrow skis, where it's if you're not comfortable on a 66 or a 68 millimeter wide ski, you know, it's not meant for beginner level skiers because it's just hard to access or take advantage of that specific width, and it works the same for both narrow and wide skis.
Totally.
But yeah, I think this is your cat skiing choice, your heli skiing choice, probably not your resort choice unless you're
Alyeska.
somewhere deep. Yeah. Deep and consistent.
Next ski has this. It's got to be the weirdest up here, right?
Yeah,
this is the Liberty Genome. And if you thought the last ski was wide, now we are at 141 underfoot. And this ski is just very unique.
Yep.
Poplar and bamboo wood core. We get some carbon in here as well. It's 2,450 grams because it's just like,
it has to be.
It's just an absurd amount of material in this ski. And to be honest, the Genome has been around for a long time with really like no changes to it. And it is simultaneously like the worst thing I've ever skied and the most fun I've ever had on a ski. You know what I mean? Like it is so weird. And like take what you were saying about like you need to be in soft snow and like fully emphasize that with Genome, because tipping this thing on edge on any kind of firm snow is the weirdest thing I've ever felt on skis.
It's a push. It's not a tip. You know,
you like can't really tip it.
Yeah, there's no tipping.
It's very strange. Yeah. And my big takeaway on Genome, and it really has always been this way, is if you're thinking about powder skiing and you want it to kind of feel like you're on a groomer, Genome's great.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter how fast you're going, you are staying on top of the snow. And you can use the ski and like manipulate the ski off the snow surface literally similar to you can on a groomer. Because it does not sink. Like, you know, on the last two skis, we were looking at how the tail is designed to sink. That is not designed to sink.
Right.
So there's so much surface area in this ski that it honestly ends up feeling like you're on a soft groomer, no matter how deep the snow is and no matter how fast you're going. And for some people, that's really, really fun. Like, because you're staying right on the top. So like slashy turns, smeary turns, nose butters, anything like that, like arguably extremely easy on the Genome if you're comfortable with just what's going on your feet. Like, you have to keep your feet wider. There's all sorts of interesting things about skiing in Genome.
Twice as wide as a 75 millimeter underfoot ski. So you take your,
It's wild.
you know, you take your Blizzard Thunderbird R1576.
Double it.
Double it.
Yeah.
And you got a Genome.
So like it literally changes your stance.
Yeah.
You know, like your feet kind of can't go narrower than that. So your feet are always going to be at least pretty far apart from
Yeah.
each other.
The cowboy style.
It's wild, yeah. And then the shape, tons of rocker in this ski. You know, they really don't put any early taper in it. Like at this point, this is kind of like an old school design.
Right.
You know, where like ski manufacturers were just playing around with shapes and width and just like making things wild. And really, since this was introduced, you know, like kind of the industry gradually went towards things like QST X or Ben Chetler 120, where like there's a little bit of at least like straightness to the tips and tails. These basically have extended side cut. It does help that there's a ton of tip rocker. You know, if this was flatter, it would actually be a really, really demanding ski. And then, you know, pretty similar in the tail, but not quite as much splay. And it still is a twin tip. I've always thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And doing many spins on that thing in the air.
Not me.
Yeah.
Somebody. So yeah, I don't know. I'm like, it's tough to talk about the Genome for me. It's kind of like one of those skis where if you're not sure, it's definitely not for you. If you have to ask, it's not for you. I can't even really think of who I would recommend it to.
I mean, someone's got to make the widest ski. you know, and there's probably something wider that I don't know about.
Liberty used to have the Mutant. Did you
Yeah.
ever ski that?
No.
So that was full reverse side cut and full reverse camber. Like truly like a water ski. You know, like take Revolt 121 and make it 25 millimeters wider and remove the camber.
Yeah.
That was basically the Mutant. Yeah, I don't know. I once taught somebody how to ski, and I was on a Genome. I don't know why I did
But
that.
the lesson plan was interesting.
It was interesting. It was really hard to demonstrate
Yeah.
techniques. I kept being like, don't watch me.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best just to
Yeah.
get down the mountain
Yeah.
safely. They're fun. They're fun. They're very unique, and it's, you know, it's far from a normal powder ski.
Yeah. Very specific.
Yeah.
Up next here, we got a Volkl Revolt 121.
You're back into more normal stuff here.
Yeah, this is still pretty wild for normal. It is unchanged except for graphics for this year. Still built with a blend of poplar and beech in the wood core. And that's about it. You know, Revolt construction is relatively simple.
Yeah.
They just are very progressive with their shaping, especially with this 121, following kind of in that footstep of the 104, but wider. When we get to the 114, Revolt becomes something pretty different, but this 121 is more free ride, freestyle, and creative oriented than that 114. Not light though here, Jeff. 2,332 grams, and
I feel
this
like
is
all the skis that we're ending with here are not light.
not light. This is the 184, so there's even another way to go.
There's a dog trying to get in.
I think a dog trying to get in. Never had that one before.
Noli, what are you doing?
Noli.
Come talk about powder skis.
No, she's gone.
That was very strange.
That was strange. I thought she was enjoying this ski conversation.
I thought she had something to say about the Revolt 121.
Yeah, I do. Taper and rocker are the big stories here. You know, construction isn't crazy. They do a good job with the thickness of the sidewalls and making it feel very solid. You know, we noted when you dropped your Revolt 96s on the snow today
yeah,
that they just go thump.
Yep.
You know, just a real solid and dense feel. And these have the same thing going on.
Yeah, none of them are light.
None of them are light. Dramatic rocker profile here. It's not really the length, it's the splay here in the Revolt 121, as well as that early taper, kind of rivaling what we see from DPS with the narrower up top and then the widest parts brought well down into the ski. So the drama of the rocker and kind of the accentuation of that taper really keeps this thing, the tips, out of the snow. And then tail, heavily tapered again, widest part brought well into the ski, and then longer, not quite as dramatic in the splay, but pretty long rocker profile back here as well, and then some camber underfoot. So you are getting that energy, that pop, that rebound to go along with a very, very creative shape. You know, this is kind of what you're seeing, you know, Volkl's freestyle-oriented athletes using as a powder ski and using it extremely efficiently.
Yeah.
You know, love watching people. This is like one of those skis where you see people going backwards like this down some big powder field. Just a long, long nose press.
Do all sorts of cool things on that ski.
Yeah, you know, looping around and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is out of my comfort zone, but I do really enjoy the solid feel of this ski, and you don't have to use this as a freestyle ski. I think that it's
like bent 120 similarities in that sense.
Yeah, where you can be a normal, like a normal powder skier.
I agree 100%.
And really get a lot of satisfaction out of it. You don't have to loop around and do flips and spins. You can ski it like a normal person and have a really good time, and I think that just the solid overall feel puts it on a different category as that bent Chetler 120, which is just a little bit more poppy and energetic. This is slightly more dense and a little bit more loping in nature.
Yeah, and if you show up to the lift line with a Revolt 121, it's not like anybody knows that you're not doing those things.
Right.
As far as they know, you might be, you just did a double cork 1080 off a cornice.
Yep. Yeah, you got to keep them guessing.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, like, you know, similar to the other Revolts, it just has a very satisfying feel to it. You know, it's very predictable. It inspires confidence, you know, like that just solid wood feel. And it is interesting that they're so different from a Blaze 114 and a Revolt 114. You know, it's got like that type of snow feel, but then a lot more playfulness. Neither of these other Volkls are as creative.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's the other way around, but it's like a big version of the 104.
Yeah.
And like it's the other way around because really this came first. So like the 104 is like a mini 121, but they have like the shapes are extremely similar, and they actually like perform very similarly.
Yeah.
Just, you know, much different widths, obviously.
Yeah, but I really like that overall snow feel of this Revolt 121.
Next up, what's that? Is that the Unleashed 114?
It's an Unleashed 114.
A couple 114s in a row here. That's fun. So this is the Nordica Unleashed 114. It was the widest in the Unleashed line until now we have the 120 that we'll talk about last. This one, compared to narrower Unleashed skis, it does have a lighter wood core, but we still get terrain-specific metal. So we get that like full-width metal up here that then tapers into a middle strip, like we'll talk about, I guess in the, gosh, I thought we had already talked about something with a middle strip of metal. Essentially, this little section right here is what they did in the totality of the 120.
Right.
But in this ski, it's full width up here, tapers into the middle, and then goes full width again underfoot, and then same thing in the tail. So there's actually quite a lot of metal in this ski. Even though they used that light wood core, putting that metal in it, it's a pretty burly ski. It's not crazy, crazy heavy. It's 2,130 grams on our scale here. But I do think it's like, it's one of the stronger skis up here.
I think it skis heavier than the scale that's on.
I agree. It's not, certainly not soft. And then probably the most unique thing about it in this category, which is, I laugh because I was just talking about the Genome, which is the same thing to the nth degree. There's no early taper. So there is rocker, there's not a lot. It's basically the same shape as an Unleashed 108, or even like kind of the same shape as an Unleashed 98. Good amount of camber underfoot. It's not tremendously hard to push through that camber. And then same thing in the tail here. There's not much rocker and there's no early taper. So what happens is you get a very, very long effective edge. And with a long effective edge and metal and a pretty stiff flex, it's a pretty demanding ski.
Yeah.
You know, it's like in things like QST X, or I mean, in tons of things, in either Whitewalker, those would be the extreme example. The edge release in those skis is just so easy.
Like, you don't even notice it.
They're so surfy, smeary. It's just so easy to release the tail edge. This ski, you really have to work for it. So it's like either you're unweighting, like actively unweighting the tail to get the ski to come around, or you're using high edge angles.
Yeah, you're up high, you're generating power,
yeah, and
you're
like
getting the rebound.
Right, and if you're not doing either of those things, it's a handful.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty interesting ski. You know, I think like it probably makes sense that you have the 120 past it, but I think the 120 is easier to ski,
especially in
this,
powder,
than this thing.
Yeah,
because they have introduced some taper, less metal. It's just like the precision of this part of the Unleashed 114 is not something that very many people are necessarily asking for in this category. Which, like, you know, good thing, bad thing, whatever.
Yeah. It's
cool that it exists because there are some people that like this, you know, like the Matt Stromeckis of the world. He doesn't have any issues on it. If you're a super, super athletic, really strong young skier, you can take these characteristics and kind of use them to your benefit rather than it being a hindrance or something that's challenging.
Like Freeride World Tour athletes.
Totally, exactly. Yeah. But, you know, you have to kind of, you have to have a self-assessment period of whether that's actually you or not. Yeah. And, you know, I think that's something that people have experienced on Unleashed skis in general, is you get on them and like, experience how like actually demanding they can be.
Yeah, you got to earn it. You got to earn the performance.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like you said, you got to think about whether that's something you want to do on a daily basis.
Right.
You know, or on a semi-daily basis given softer snow. But certainly this thing doesn't. It's not like it excels in powder. You know, it's in the powder ski comparison, but I don't think it excels in powder.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It'll do it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like, yeah, it's not jumping off the wall as like, this is one of the best powder skis on the market.
Right.
And I'll make a segue for you. I wouldn't say that about the next ski either.
That's the Revolt 114. Yeah, interesting how two Revolts can be very different skis.
Yeah.
Especially since they pretty much have the same construction. This is the 114, and if you followed along...
Gosh, this thing is hefty.
Volkl has the Revolt 101 that was new for this year, and what were we saying? That one was so the 121 is the wider version of the 104, or the 104 is the narrower version of the 121.
Yeah,
same can be said
with the 101.
101 to 104, 114, excuse me. Yeah, same shape and profile as that new 101, wider. 2,364 grams here in the 184. And a thick wood core gives you a stiff flex and a pretty burly ride. I don't think it's a rugged ride. It is smooth and powerful and stable. You do have to, again, earn it.
Yeah.
You know, just having the thickness of that wood core extend all the way through the tips and through the tails really makes it just feel like it's connected to the snow. Again, more of kind of that athlete, that free ride, directional athlete inspired ski where you need to be skiing directly in a big mountain format and put some effort and emphasis into your turns.
Yep.
It's not smeary and drifty unless you are a very high caliber skier. And I do think that those skiers exist, and they will be surprised if they don't know already that the ski doesn't have metal in it. You know, it's one of those skis that's so damp and so powerful that it's hard to believe that it doesn't have metal. Same thing for the 101 and how well that thing carves. You know, this does very similar things just in a wider bodied format.
Yep.
A pretty unique ski here. You know, not a ton of rocker or splay for this width, kind of average, I would say. And then flatter tail overall, you know, longer rocker, but not a ton of splay. And we talk about this taper in the tail with this 114. We talked about it with the 101 as well. It does allow for at least a little bit of mobility in deeper snow. It's not like it's bringing you all the way around in a carved turn or anything like that, but it, when paired with the thickness of this wood core profile back here in the tail, it does stay engaged, and you do have to be conscious of your unweighting in order to get it to perform as desired. But yeah, super solid, really clean at cutting through crud and chop. You know, I think that's
one of the best up here for sure.
Yeah, if you're kind of at the top of a bowl and the snow is a week old,
Choppy. Yeah.
You know, you're going to have no problem cutting through it on a Revolt 114.
Yeah, cuts and skips and skims through things.
Yeah, and it likes speed.
Yeah.
You know, it handles speed very well. Again, you know, thicker core profile goes a long way in making the ski feel like it's composed in adverse conditions and terrain. But yeah, like you said, not like a drifty powder ski by any stretch. And don't be fooled by the name being the same as the 121 or even the 104. The 104 is a better floater than the 114.
Yeah, totally.
So
like, yeah, if I had my pick of like powder ski between Revolt 104 and 114, I would take the 104 every time.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Next ski up here, this is the Rossignol Sender Free 118. This one's kind of interesting. It's always felt like it kind of a progression from that old Black Ops 118.
Yeah.
And a lot of similarities between this and that ski. And we used to always talk about how that ski was a pretty demanding ski, and I think the same is true with this Sender Free 118. Poplar wood core in this ski, and then we get a lot of the other Rossignol things. So we get air tip, we get the vibration absorption system. We're pretty darn sure there's like some basalt stringers, although they don't really talk about it much in this ski, but you can see it.
Yeah, they're there.
They're there. So there's quite a bit going on in the construction of this ski, and you see it reflected on the scale, 2,430 grams here. And it's just a big, hefty thing. It's not like the stiffest ski in the world, which I think is kind of its saving grace. Like, yeah,
it would be pretty brutal.
Yeah, if it were stiffer,
a lot stiffer,
it would be tough. And then it really is like a big, massive twin tip that's very, very strong. Like, that's kind of the best way to think about this ski. Not the most tip rocker up here by any means. There's actually a ton of camber in this ski, like camber height, and it's like pretty hard to,
Yeah.
to push through. So you get like a lot of poppy energy out of it and a lot of stability. And then like really twin tippy in the tail shape and about the same amount of tail rocker as tip rocker. So really has strong twin tip vibes. And, you know, I think these guys are still relevant, but that Black Ops 118, that came from the minds of Chris Logan and Parker White. And both those guys are like really, really strong skiers. So it's no surprise that the ski that they kind of helped develop is really, really strong while also being a twin tip.
Yeah.
So like if you want to ski really, really fast and do a 540 and land switch in powder, this is a great option. You know, there are others that'll work too, but it's when you add in that like really, really fast to the equation of freestyle stuff in the backcountry, that's where this ski really shines. You know, not really one that I love skiing, and it's kind of interesting because I love skiing the Sender Free 110. And when you ski them back to back, they don't really share many like characteristics.
It's definitely more Black Ops.
Yeah.
You know, like Sender Free 100 and 110 share a lot of
A lot.
similarities.
Yeah.
And then your Black Ops 98 and this Sender Free 118.
Right. They feel more
They
similar.
feel more similar.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's big, it's heavy, it's damp, but it's also a twin tip. And that's that's what makes it unique. But, you know, 2,450 grams is really tiring.
It doesn't care what's underneath it, and I love that about this ski. I
Just
have been
plows.
on it on
Motors through things.
yeah, like snowy days here at Stowe where you're skiing on the trails, which everyone else is on, and you can leave everyone else in the dust because it's so stable and just cuts through anything, bumps, powder chunks, whatever's in front of you, just right through.
Well, and there is like a touch of forgiveness to it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can say all those things and like they're all true, but there's a lot of tail rocker.
Yep.
So you can shut it down. You know, it still takes some effort because the ski is heavy, so it's not like it's just easy to flick sideways like some of these lighter skis.
Yeah.
But it's not, the shape is not fighting you, which is nice.
It's open zones preferred.
I agree.
Tighter spaces
It's just tiring.
Yeah.
When you have to move it side to side a lot, it just gets really tiring and just feels cumbersome, where the 110 doesn't feel like that at all.
Right.
So it's a little different, and like, you know, they're closer in width than the 100 and the 110. So I would totally understand and not fault somebody for looking at the Sender Free 110 and the 118 and thinking that they would be very similar things, but they're really not.
They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't find that to be the case either. Finally here we got a Nordica Unleashed 120. This is a new ski for 2026, something we got on last year and actually had a lot of good snowy days here at Stowe. We had a wonderful April, which is, you know, when someone drops off a 120 with a demo binding for us to test out, you kind of got to hold on to hope that you're going to get at least one good day. And I think that we had several, half a dozen.
It was tough to pry it out of Matt's hands.
Yeah, he did just fine, you know, and like when we first started seeing this ski kind of hit, the videos hit, they were all kind of out in Jackson Hole and bigger mountains and wider areas, and I think that that's certainly where this ski excels. But compared to the other Unleashed skis, and I think this is where your comments about this 114 really kind of ring true, is that this is less difficult to use in deeper snow than that 114 is. Still not like a Stowe ski or
it depends on who you are,
but
what you want out of it.
Yeah.
I actually think the Sender Free 118 is probably more demanding just from the weight.
You're probably right. This is 2,100 grams here in the 190. It is built with that lighter performance wood core. We do get that. I mean, it's easier to call it a Titanal band, even though other brands probably use that name.
Rossignol's yelling at you right now.
Yeah, central strip. of Titanal throughout, just a little bit wider than the binding platform. So the edges are not covered in metal, but there is metal in the middle of the ski. And that really gives it its linear stability and power, which is why it excels really well in those bigger mountain formats and at those higher speeds. What is a turn radius here? 22.3, and we got 150, 120, 139 for measurements. So pretty standard stuff for this width. I think that in Unleashed line, it starts to stand out because we do get that introduction of taper and a little bit more gratuity in the rocker profile. So I guess I'll try to...
A little bit more of a modern shape.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at these kind of next to each other here, you know, that taper goes up, or the widest part is higher on the 114 and lower on the 120. So it is giving this thing a little bit more of that directional performance, especially at higher speeds. Whereas that 114 is going to want to come across the fall line more. Yeah, this thing's going to flex and be a little bit more, I mean, even easier to smear.
Like the turn radius is an outlier in Unleashed.
Yes.
Longer.
Yep.
Longer, more taper, so yeah, it's less round and more smeary, slashy.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice.
More tip rocker, less of a twin tip. You know, that's kind of what we're seeing now with this 120 is that...
Yeah, it does feel more directional.
More directional. Still has, you know, enough of that playfulness to be considered. More of a creative ski, but leans more to the directional side of the spectrum for sure.
Yeah.
And interesting to see, you know, how it's being used in those bigger mountain formats. But yeah, nice and floaty.
Pretty well-rounded.
Well-rounded. You know, we got to ski Matt had them on all the powder days. I got them in some spring snow. Yeah. And they do like to run. You know, I think that that's part of their charm is that they're very stable when you're going fast and really, really fun.
Yeah, and they're not, you know, they're not as easy to ski as Ben Chetler 120 or a QST X, but they're not too challenging to ski. No. Which is refreshing for the Unleashed line.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I found them just to be up on a higher edge angle, you know. Yeah. It's like they work really well when you're going fast up on a high edge angle.
Yep. Yeah, but a little more slashy, drifty than we've ever had in Unleashed before.
Yeah, for sure.
Is nice.
But good addition to that lineup.
Yeah, totally. It kind of needed it, don't you think?
Yeah, especially with like this as the widest in the lineup.
Right.
In Nordica's lineup.
Right. With that being the widest ski in their lineup, it felt like they didn't really have a powdered ski.
Yeah, totally.
And now they have a really good one.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's it. That was fun.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, you know, apologies that we didn't have more footage to provide, but you know,
we'd love to have more.
We can dream. We can hope and dream. If we all collectively just hope that it snows 600 inches in Stowe this year, then we'll ski this stuff all the time.
They're also less readily available with demo bindings.
Yep, totally.
So that's another factor.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still possible to get on, but we don't see them as frequently, which makes it challenging. Yeah. So, that's it. That's the widest of our 2026 ski comparisons. As always, let us know if you have any questions. I think people love talking about these skis.
Sure do.
They're very emotional, this category.
Same as the narrow skis.
Yeah, 100%. So let us know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.